What? What are you staring at? Do I have something in my teeth?
No, it's just... you're green.
As you all probably know by now, Wicked 2 is officially confirmed and set to release in 2025. The musical fantasy sequel now has an official title, Wicked for Good, which hints at the song that might take the spotlight instead of Defying Gravity. We'll dive into all the details about that later in the video, but first, let's share our thoughts on why Wicked would have been so much worse if it hadn't been split into 2 movies. So no more teasing, let's break down all the info we've got and go through everything we know so far. First up, let's break down why we think Wicked would have been a lot worse if it hadn't been split into 2 movies. Turning the beloved Broadway musical into 2 films turned out to be a brilliant idea. At first, some people worried it wasn't necessary since the Wicked musical is already just under 3 hours long, including the intermission. Meanwhile, the first Wicked movie alone runs almost as long at 2 hours and 40 minutes. But those concerns quickly faded when the first movie ended at just the right moment, Elphaba's iconic flight after belting out Defying Gravity. The story of Wicked follows Elphaba and Glinda, 2 very different young women who form an unexpected friendship at Shiz University before eventually becoming the Wicked Witch of the West and the Good Witch of the North. With a cast that includes Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, Michelle Yeoh, and Jeff Goldblum, the film delivers a powerhouse performance. The glowing reviews made it clear that splitting the story into 2 movies was the right call to fully explore Elphaba and Glinda's journeys. Breaking the musical into 2 films allowed for richer character development and better world building. The first movie sets the stage beautifully, introducing key characters like Elphaba, Glinda, Fiyero, Bach, and Nessa Rose, while focusing on their lives at Shiz University. The second half takes them to Emerald City, where the Wizard of Oz enters the picture. If the filmmakers had crammed the entire musical into 1 movie, it would have felt rushed. Supporting characters like Bach and Nessa Rose wouldn't have had nearly as much screen time or depth. By splitting the story, the first film could dive into Elphaba's backstory and paint a vivid picture of Oz without rushing from one major plot point to the next. If Wicked had been squeezed into just 1 film, the story would have had to prioritize only the biggest moments, leaving out some key details and character arcs. Sure, Elphaba, Glinda, and Fiyero would still have been in the spotlight, but Bach and Nessa Rose might have been reduced to side characters with little significance. And let's be real, Oz itself wouldn't have felt nearly as magical or alive with such a limited runtime. On top of that, fans would have missed out on some of Wicked's most iconic songs. While hits like Defying Gravity and Popular would surely make the cut, other favorites could have been left on the chopping block. Imagine the disappointment if your favorite tune didn't make it to the big screen. In the end, splitting Wicked into 2 movies wasn't just the right decision, it was the only way to do justice to this incredible story. Now let's dive into why the new title for Wicked 2 confirms that the sequel's perfect replacement for Defying Gravity is already here. The second part of the movie is called Wicked for Good, which is a clear nod to one of the musical's most iconic songs, and it looks like For Good will take over the emotional weight that Defying Gravity carried in the first movie. Defying Gravity has always been the showstopper, the song that defines Wicked for most people. But with the second movie, it was always going to be tough to match the power of that track. So, by naming the sequel after For Good, the filmmakers are setting up this song to take the spotlight in the second part, and it's a perfect fit. This song appears toward the end of the musical and is one of the most important moments in the story. The thing is, For Good is arguably even more emotional and significant to the plot than Defying Gravity. While Defying Gravity shows Elphaba's transformation and her fight for independence, For Good marks the final emotional moment between Elphaba and Galinda. It's their last goodbye where they come to terms with their choices and their friendship. This song is a powerful ending to their relationship, and it brings closure to everything they've been through. While Defying Gravity is a strong turning point, Wicked for Good will take the emotional weight of the story to a whole new level. And since the movie is set to release on November 21, 2025, almost exactly a year after the first one, we can expect the emotional depth of For Good to tie everything together in a way that truly honors both Elphaba and Glinda's journey. One more thing to mention for all of you watching, while making this video, we found out that Wicked actually cut a scene featuring Bach, played by Ethan Slater, and a shirtless Fiyero. Director Jon M explained this decision, and it's something not a lot of people noticed, but it's definitely important if you're planning to watch Wicked for good. So here's the deal, even though the movie is split into two parts and the first movie's runtime is about the same as the Broadway musical, there were still some scenes that had to be cut to match the pacing of a movie. Jon M confirmed that the scene with Bach and the shirtless Fiyero was filmed and it was pretty funny, but he said it didn't quite fit the tone of the movie, so it got cut. However, he teased that it could be included in the home video release, so keep an eye out for that when the digital purchase comes out on December 31. Now, while it's a little disappointing for fans who are excited to see more of shirtless Fiyero, cutting the scene might have been the right choice. The scene could have helped develop Bach's character, especially his dynamic with Fiyero. There's a moment in the musical where Fiyero shows interest in Bach, and cutting the scene might have kept the focus on the main characters Elphaba and Glinda. Also, having a shirtless scene could have made the movie a bit less family-friendly, which probably wouldn't have been the best for the movie's broad appeal. That said, I do think this scene deserves to be seen. It could have helped show the differences in the values of Fiyero and Glinda, and given a bit more insight into where their character arcs are headed in Wicked for Good. The movie is still amazing without it, but I'm definitely curious to see the scene for myself when it's released. Moreover, in Wicked, there's a subtle yet significant detail that hints at a deeper layer of the animal storyline. While the movie doesn't fully dive into the plight of the animals in Oz, it drops clues about their history of oppression, making it an important aspect of the larger narrative. In Wicked, Elphaba, the green-skinned protagonist, learns that the animals of Oz have been systematically discriminated against by the wizard, who used them as a common enemy to unite the kingdom. This storyline mirrors real-world themes of fascism and the scapegoating of minorities. One of the key characters, Dr. Dillamond, played by Peter Dinklage, is one of the few remaining animal professors at Shiz University, and his lectures reveal that many of the staff at Shiz were once animals. Through his character and the song Something Bad, we learn about the silencing of protests and the mysterious disappearances of those who resist the wizard's regime. A critical moment early in the film foreshadows this dark history. Elphaba accidentally destroys a stonework mural at Shiz, revealing a hidden image of animal scholars. This discovery implies that animals were once central to the university's founding, a fact that the wizard and his allies, like Madame Morrible, likely wish to erase to maintain their control over Oz's history. This erasure of animal history is key to understanding the world of Wicked, and will likely play a significant role in Wicked Part 2, where Elphaba will continue to champion the animal cause. As she faces exile and persecution, the animal storyline will align with the ongoing themes of discrimination and oppression, possibly bringing Elphaba, Fiyero, and Glinda back together in their shared fight for justice. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below.